All right, so we're in the week of February 22nd to 24th. So we're gonna have to augment the schedule. So we're gonna go over articulations and muscular system today, and we're gonna go over nervous system on Wednesday. And then March 1st, you'll have a review for practical 2. And then your practical 2 will end up being on March 3rd. All right. So if you look in week 7 assignments and quizzes on the modules, go to homework 2 activity. So it's similar to the first assignment. So you're not going to be turning in a paper assignment. You're going to turn it in online like you did for homework 1. And basically you're going to have an image, show 6 motions on them. We're going to talk about those motions today. Then you're going to have another image, and you're going to label 11 muscles. Okay. So you're going to, and also you're going to identify their functions, right? So you do those things, you get 100, right? So you got 6 motions, 11 muscles, names, and functions, right? And you got to locate where they are on the body. Okay. And you'll submit it again like a Google link from a Google Slides presentation. Make sure you set it to anyone with the link can view, or share it with me specifically, so that when you turn it in, I can actually look at it. All right, because if you just submit a link and you haven't set the settings where I can see it, I still can't see it. Okay, so make sure you do that. And then when you go to submit, click URL, paste the URL into the link, and then I'll be able to look at it. All right. So let's talk about articulations. So what are they? Articulations are a fancy word for joints. All right. So here are some different kinds of joints. So we're not going to go really too specific into different kinds of joints, but I want you to know that there are different types. Okay. We'll learn a lot more about these in lecture, but I do want you to know that there are definitely different types of joints. So you've got, all right, so here's an example of a synovial joint. So the synovial joint, you have a joint cavity that has synovial fluid in it. You have articular cartilage, which is made up of hyaline cartilage. We learned about that. We learned about tissues. Has a synovial membrane around it. Okay. Has a fibrous layer around that synovial membrane, and those 2 layers together form what we call the articular capsule. Okay, and this helps so that, particularly like at your knees and your elbows, so those bones aren't just hitting each other. Okay, and there's fluid that gives you some compression, right? It helps you to be able to withstand running and jumping and all that, walking. All right, body movement. So this is on homework 2. So it's definitely something you need to know about. So flexion means decreasing the angle at a joint. Okay. So it's your shoulder joint. Move your arm up. You think about it. This is like 180 degrees, and this is reducing that degree. So basically between your hand and your head. So if you go from your hand to your head this way, the angle is shorter. So it's flexion. All right, same with your arms. You're reducing the angle, right, between your hand and your head. Right, this is flexion. Go the other way, it's extension. You're increasing the angle. With your legs, so if you kick your back leg up, it's flexion. You're decreasing the angle between your foot and the plane of your body. And then if you kick your leg out, you're increasing that angle. It's extension. Some joints allow for hyperextension. So like in the case of the shoulders, you have flexion, extension. If you stick your arms back a little bit, you can hyperextend. Some joints allow for rotation. Like turn your head, no, right? So you can turn your head to the left or right, you're rotating. All right, so your arms, if you move your thumbs toward the middle of your body, it's medial rotation. Move them out. And again, we're not just talking about your hands, we're talking about like your whole arm. If you turn your arm in, it's medial rotation. Turn your arm out, lateral rotation. Now, some joints allow for moving away from the midline. Move your arms up away from the midline. We call that abduction. Moving back toward the midline, adduction. Okay, if you worked out, you may have seen machines that say like leg abduction or hip abduction, hip adduction. Okay, same with your legs. You stick your leg out, abduction, bring it back in, adduction. Your arms, you can also spin them around. Call that circumduction, like a circle. All right, so this shows some of you've already seen. Now with the foot, if you plant down the ball of your foot where your toes are, you're standing on your tippy toes, right? We call that plantar flexion. Now, if you stick your toes out, dorsiflexion, all right? Tippy toes, plantar flexion, toes up, dorsiflexion. With your fingers, if you touch your finger with your thumb, call that opposition. Your thumb is opposing your other fingers. With your hands, if you rotate your hands, right, this is anatomical position, it's normal, right? If you flip them, if you rotate your radius over your ulna, we call it pronation. Supination, come back. Okay, makes your radius and ulna parallel. So pronation, supination, pronation, supination. Okay, if your ankle, you move your ankle toward the midline so your big toe goes up, we call that inversion. Rotate your ankle out away from the midline, we call that eversion. Okay, so if you're moving your ankle in, it's inversion, out, eversion. All right, everybody stand up. All right, so all right, let's see adduction. Let's see adduction. All right, you could also, all right. So it's an abduction, right? Okay. Let's see plantar flexion. All right. I don't see too many people staying on their tippy toes. All right. I should have seen people get a little taller, right? And then come back down. All right, that's dorsiflexion. Okay. See flexion. Okay. Flexion. It depends on which one. Yeah, there's different ways to be correct. Right. This is flexion. This is flexion. This is flexion. Right. All right. Now, don't go crazy with it. Let's see some hyperextension. Okay, don't go too far back. All right. Okay, very good. All right. So if this is flexion, what's extension? Okay, very good. Okay. See opposition. Okay. Okay. Let's see pronation. Pronation, right? Supination. Okay, hands back out, palms out. Okay. All right. Circumduction. Okay, good. All right. Inversion. Okay. All right. Good. Eversion. Don't go crazy with it either. Okay. I don't want toe turns in. Eversion, toe turns out. Okay. All right. Y'all have a seat. All right. Let's talk about muscular system. Okay. So you got some models at your tables. So here's some of the major muscles of the face. All right, anybody remember what bone goes right here? Frontal bone. So the muscle is the frontalis bone. Okay. What bone is here? Temporal bones, temporalis muscle. What bone's here? Occipital. So this is occipitalis. Okay, so at least you know you got 3 right off the bat, right? Okay. So here, so this is where it gets a little harder. So this is a circle, right? So this is orbit. So you'll see orbicularis. And because it's the eyes, it's orbicularis oculi. That makes sense? Whereas down here, you have another orbit around the mouth. So it's orbicularis oris. Okay, does that make sense? All right. Yeah, this kind of muscle is kind of has 2 parts here, or heads. Call it mass eater or mass eater. And it should sound right because if you think about it, if it's moving, it's going to help you chew, right? It's going to help you eat a mass, right? So it's the mass eater. Now this one goes across your neck toward the midline. It's a longer name, but it's sternocleidomastoid. Everybody say it with me. Sternocleidomastoid. All right, in the back of your neck, back here, it's called the trapezius. Okay. And these, it's just you play the games, it'll get easier and easier for you. Okay. All right. Let's go on to the body, rest of the anterior surface. Again, there's that sternocleidomastoid. It's kind of diagonal, right? It's trapezius. You can see a bit of it there. All right, so you're doing all the shoulder shrugs. You might get bigger trapezius muscles, right? And the shoulder, we call it the deltoid. Okay. Chest area, thoracic area, we call it, this is the pectoralis major. And the arm, upper arm, the flex, we talked about flexion, right? The muscle is one of the muscles that's helping you with flexion. One of the primary muscles is the biceps brachii. Okay, because it has 2 heads. Brachii is the root word for arm. On the posterior side, you have the triceps brachii. 3 heads. It helps with extension. Okay, and the forearm, on your thumb side, you have the brachioradialis muscle. Okay. In the abdomen, okay, if you're trying to get those 6-pack abs, right, or the 8-pack there, you got the rectus abdominis, right? On the sides, you have the external obliques. Okay. Oblique means diagonal. And those fibers run diagonally. Okay. Now on the quadriceps, this is the thigh region. This muscle here in the quadriceps region, that is the rectus femoris. Okay, kind of helps you extend. Okay, if it contracts, you're going to extend your knee joint. All right. So, anybody remember the bone that goes here? Fibula and the, what's the one next to it? Tibia. So this is the tibialis anterior because it's touching the tibia and it's on the anterior side, right? And then on the thigh, or on the, sorry, this is your thigh on the calf. One of those, the more superficial muscle in your calf is the gastrocnemius. Okay. All right. So that's the anterior muscles. What about the posterior? Okay, we saw occipitalis, right? The occipital bone. Again, another view of sternocleidomastoid and the trapezius. You can also see that deltoid in the shoulder. All right, here in the lower back, large muscle here, it's called latissimus dorsi. All right, so if you're doing a lot of bent over rows or doing on a row machine, you're going to be working out latissimus dorsi. You can see a good view of the triceps brachii on the posterior side of the arm, help you extend it. All right, most people don't need an anatomist to tell them what this muscle is, right? It's your gluteus maximus. You also have a smaller muscle here called the gluteus medius. Now, in the back of your, or posterior side of your leg, you have the hamstring muscles. Okay, and this one here in particular is known as the biceps femoris. Now, you're going to say, I thought you told me biceps in your arms. Biceps brachii, right? Because brachii means arm. Why do you think we're calling this one femoris? Because it's by the femur, attaching to the femur. Good. And then here's another good view of the gastrocnemius. All right. So we'll kind of conclude here with kind of names and actions. So on the practical, you will need to know names and actions. So there will be some questions where we ask you, what's the action of this muscle? And like it'll be like a matching, right? So you'll have to figure out the name of the muscle and match it with the correct action. But again, if you know the part of the body, you know where it's located, you can, help you to, because I personally would not try to get you to just memorize this because it's a lot of information. I really would look at where it is in the body and think about if the muscle contracted, if it's squeezed, what's it going to make the bones do, right? So biceps brachii, we'll start there. All right, so biceps brachii. All right, it's going to flex your elbow joint. Okay, biceps brachii also helps you to supinate your forearm. Biceps femoris is going to flex your knee. Also helps with some lateral rotation, right? So you can kind of move your knee out, right? And it can also help you extend your hip. So if you have your leg up, you can extend it. So bring it back down. Brachioradialis in the forearm helps you flex your forearm. How do you do that? Well, if you think about it, if you just move your hand like this and put your other hand on this outside of your arm, just do that a few times and see if you feel that muscle. Okay, you're probably going to be starting to feel a bit of your brachioradialis muscle. Don't do it a lot, just enough that you can feel it. All right. Deltoid in your shoulder. It contracts. Your shoulder, that muscle contracts. What's it do? Abducts your arm, right? External oblique. It contracts your abdomen, right? And it's diagonal. So if it contracts on one side, right, you're going to essentially rotate so it can help you turn, right? And laterally flex because you're flexing away from the midline, okay? So if you're doing ab exercises, like that, you're working out your external obliques. So the gastrocnemius, that one, remember I told you to do the plantar flexion, get on your tippy toes. If you feel that in the back of your leg, that's because it's your gastrocnemius contracting. Frontalis, right, in front of your head, what does it do? It's going to raise your eyebrows. So this is what I like to say is this is your Dwayne Johnson, the rock muscle, right? So I don't know if y'all are probably, most of y'all are probably too young to remember when Dwayne Johnson was actually a wrestler, not an actor. But he used to raise up one of his eyebrows. So he had a lot of control over his frontalis muscle. All right, so gluteus maximus, right? So it can help you extend your hip, right? So so if you're pushing down, you should eventually feel that in your gluteus maximus. All right, gluteus medius helps you with some abduction. So if you're moving your leg out, also helps you medially rotate your thigh toward the midline. Latissimus dorsi in your back. Okay, what does it help you do? Well, you're actually using it when you extend your arm a little bit. Also helps when you adduct. Okay, so if you do cable exercises where you pull the cables down, you can work your latissimus dorsi. You can medially rotate your arm as well, bring it in the midline. Mass eater, it's going to close your jaws and elevate your mandible. Okay, so when you close your jaw, it's going to elevate it, bring it up when it contracts. Helps you chew your food to elevate your jawbone, your mouth, your mandible. Occipitalis, in the back of your head, it's going to pull the scalp toward the back of the head. Posterior. Orbicularis oculi, as the name suggests, it works on your eyes. So if you see a choice with eyes, it's probably orbicularis oris, right? So it closes your eyes, blinking, squinting. Orbicularis oris has to do with your oris, your mouth. So if you see a choice that has to do with the mouth, it's probably orbicularis oris. So it's helping in closing your lips and kissing. Pectoralis major helps you to flex, adduct, and medially rotate your arm. All right, so if you're flexing your arm, pulling things up like that, you use your pectoralis major. You're adducting, you're using your pectoralis major, medially rotating your arm. All right, rectus abdominis. It's going to flex, rotate your vertebral column, right? Because it's this right here. So if you do your crunches, you're actually flexing your vertebral column. Why? Because you're decreasing the angle between your head and the rest of your body. All right. Also helps some with rotation. Okay, rectus femoris is going to extend your knee. All right, because this is on the anterior side. So it's going to extend your knee. Also can flex your hip, bring your hip up. All right. Sternocleidomastoid. Help you flex your neck. Okay, bringing the neck head down is flexing because you're decreasing the angle. And helps you rotate your head. So if you're only contracting one versus the other, you can kind of move your head like that because of the sternocleidomastoid. Temporalis, right, the side of the head, helps you to close your jaw, elevate your mandible. So if you see something about the jaw or the mandible, it's either the mass eater or the temporalis. And so they both have essentially the same function. Tibialis anterior is going to dorsiflex your foot. Dorsiflex, tibialis anterior. Remember, it's in the front. So it's in the front. So if it contracts, it's going to essentially pull your toes up. All right. All right. Trapezius. It's going to extend your neck, right? Because it's in the back of your head. So if it contracts, pulls your head back up. So it's opposing what other muscle that we just talked about? Sternocleidomastoid, right? Which flexes your neck. All right. And the triceps brachii, it extends your arm. Now, what muscle is the triceps brachii opposing? What has the opposite function? Which one flexes your arm? Huh? Well, it does have some role in that, but the major one has a similar name. Biceps brachii. Good. All right. All right. So what I want you to do now is to go ahead and work on your exit tickets. And you can also practice the games that are in the modules on your phones.